Yeah.
And the thing I work on social, yeah, but because my iPad. Otherwise I would drive you.
Okay,
Yeah, she said, "Where's the polish?"
I think we're ready to go. So we're doing welcome everyone. Thank you for coming. We're doing a kind of a new thing with this little guy here. This is the owl, and it theoretically is going to follow us or me around, or whoever's speaking around, and show the folks at home what's going on. So we'll see how it works. At least those of us that are here are going to figure out what's going on. So we'll do that. So I'm going to start. I'm Mike Cooper. I'm the president of the Central Oregon Writers Guild. Welcome everyone. I'm going to go through kind of our events stuff here. And then we'll get into our program, our featured reader and our presenter tonight. Those of you at home who are watching this, if you just want to see the presenter, you can click on the image of the presenter and just hit the little drop down that says pin, and that will show just the presenter instead of everyone else that's in the room. This is being recorded, so I'll post it tomorrow or the next day on the website. And I'm just going to go over the events that we have coming up here. So as you probably all know, Central Oregon Writers Guild Anthologies, the 2025 is available on Amazon, as all of them are. If you click on that little link, you'll find them. There's lots of quiet writing that's going on in town. So Polani Springs Books and Sisters is doing every other Monday. And if you click on that little blue thing there, you'll see the schedule. Redmond Libraries is doing Wednesdays, 10 to 11:30. Open Arts Center is doing some cool stuff. They're doing poetry, like generative poetry and prose on the first and second Wednesdays. And on the third and fourth, they're doing kind of workshop-y stuff. So I'm looking forward to giving that a shot myself. That's a relatively new thing. Sisters Library does quiet writing 10:30 to noon. And then here at COCC, we're doing quiet writing on Tuesday mornings, 9:30 to 11. And that's in the Barbara Library. And then over on the right side there, you'll see all the events that we know of that are going on in February, author readings, classes, the spoken word, open mic stuff. Carrie is doing, so Carrie, our speaker tonight, is going to do a workshop on Saturday, the 21st here at COCC. And she's going to she'll talk a little bit about it tonight, but she's going to carry on with this idea of the modern love thing. We are also doing, I've sent out a couple of emails about critique groups, and I think I'll send another one tomorrow. And tomorrow is sort of the deadline to get back to Maureen. And she's put together, we've got quite a few people actually interested. She's putting together this writers roundtable that is going to take place on February 24th here in this building downstairs in 117. And what we'll do is we'll talk about critique groups, best practices for critique groups, and then just meet people, have a kind of almost like a rotating interview sort of a thing where people can talk with each other and figure out who wants to work with who, if people want to get together and do some writing. And there's different levels of critique groups. Obviously, there's the very serious, and then there's the casuals and everything in between. So she has, if you're interested, as I said, I'll send out that email one more time. But if you actually click on this thing where it says Writers Roundtable, you'll get an email address and you can say, yes, I'm interested. And then Maureen will send you back a survey. So you can fill out this questionnaire. So right here,
Thank you.
you're already in there, aren't you? You've already responded, haven't you?
I don't think I haven't responded recently. I did a long time ago, so I don't.
Oh, was it a long time ago? Okay. She'll fill out that questionnaire and then we'll get together and she'll kind of, we're gonna figure out ways to get together. Okay, so, but there are a lot of people interested, so it should be pretty cool. Next month, we have Kristen Dorsey, our old friend who, former Writers Guild Vice President and comes to visit us almost every single year, teacher here also at COCC. And then the various events that we've got going here, Kristen, Anthony Rosso is gonna talk about character in April, and he's also gonna do a workshop. Eileen Sather is gonna talk about inciting incidents in May. Christopher Hazlitt's going to talk about AI and writing. Irene and I are going to talk about revision, rewriting, revising, editing, all those different things, that process. And we'll do a workshop in July. Denise is going to talk about screenwriting in August. Jane Kirkpatrick is going to come visit us and talk to us about keeping our butts in the chairs and staying in the room. Leva's going to talk about publishing and marketing, and she'll do a workshop in October. And then Catherine Snyder is going to talk about how honest we have to be in our creative nonfiction, which is a fun topic. And then we've got our potluck in December there. So that is the lineup for the coming year. Any questions about anything coming up? No? Totally got this dial. I love that. You're just like, no, we're good.
What is the room that this group on the 24th is gonna meet at?
That's gonna be down, I think downstairs, 117. So we're in these two rooms for the first 3 months. So January, February, March, we'll be in these rooms. And April, May, June will be downstairs in 117, 118. Okay, same building, but I think right below us is where we're going to be. That's just how they had us booked. Good question though. Any other questions? No? Okay. Mary is not here tonight, so I'll be Mary. I'll be the although Mary just walked in. Other Mary. So I'm going to introduce our featured reader tonight. Minda Debouget. Did I say that right? I'm so proud of myself. Minda Debouget is a published author and existing artist. She splits her time between her love of writing and producing mixed media collage and 3D art. She's a native Central Oregonian due to the perseverance and grit of her pioneering great-grandparents. Her love of writing comes from her love of reading and the many hours spent in the library with her librarian grandmother. Her favorite award-winning children's story was published in the 2023 Central Oregon Writers Guild Anthology. And let's welcome Minda.
Stepping over the cord. Okay.
Anyone comes up, step.
Booby trap. Okay. Okay, I read this at the book drop in October, so I haven't done a whole lot of reading out loud since then. So here we go. Trashman Express. Nothing sounds like the unmistakable billowy snap of a plastic 13-gallon trash bag. That in itself can be alarming, irritating, even excruciating. Now pair that with the shrill, excited barking of an adorable Sheltie, and you have my family's version of a Saturday morning wake-up call. Without fail, this morning ritual was anticipated and enjoyed by my dad and Delta Dawn, our Sheltie. Yes, her name was Delta Dawn. Just like the 1972 Tandy Tucker song, it seemed like an odd name to give a puppy. However, after meeting Holly and George, the retired college professors who owned the kennel, the name they gave her wasn't that surprising after all. We visited their beautiful farm, which was reminiscent of a commune designed with four-legged communitarians in mind. Touring the little dog houses set up in clusters around a grassy play area, my dad's merriment was clear. He mused about the other puppies in the litter that had song names from the 70s top 10 hit list and then declared that Delta Dawn would just be Dawn from that day forward. As far as he was concerned, the sun rose and set with this cute, clever fur baby. Dawn and Dad were steadfast companions and best friends from that first day. Saturday morning light would spill over the front lawn just as Dad would go to the pantry, pull out 5 white hefties and rattle them so that Dawn would bark in mock alarm. She could have spoken in a human language. If she could have spoken in a human language, she would have been saying something to the tune of, do the snappy thing, Dad. You know how I love the snappy thing. Instead, it was bark, bark, whoosh, snap, rattle, rattle, bark, bark, bark. Tucking 4 bags into his belt, Dad would head to the kitchen with Dawn to start their journey. My dad's voice would take on an excited, anticipatory tone. Let's take out the trash. Where is it? Show me. Going directly to the kitchen cupboard under the sink, Dawn would scratch her paw on the door. With her head down and tail wagging, she'd look intently at my father and give a low yip. Dad would open the cupboard door and slide the bucket out. He'd remove the full bag, not the orange ties, and drop it to the side. Taking an empty bag from his belt, he'd separate the top edge and pause for a moment. Anticipating his next move, Dawn would shift into her downward dog position and bark, 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 whoosh, snap, rattle, rattle, bark, 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 bark. An empty bag replaced the full one, and the can was put under the sink. A familiar thunk followed the cupboard doors closing. Slinging the hefty over his shoulder like an albino Santa's bag, Dad and Dawn hustled to the next stop on the trash bin express. With 4 more stops to go on their route, I could mentally follow them around the entire house by the ruckus that would ensue at each stop. I listened to a muted replay of excited questions, bag snapping, and barking. Eventually, my father, with 5 bulging white trash bags slung over his shoulder and Dawn prancing and barking at his side like a miniature rain dog, they'd make their way to the garage. They completed their trash collecting with a significant amount of noise and barking, much like Santa's well-known clatter and jingling. Because my bedroom was right next door to the garage, I had no choice but to listen to the hum of the garage door opening. The bang of wood and the ping of springs would accompany the grinding sound as the door slowly made its way up to the ceiling. More barking would follow as the bags were unceremoniously dropped into the disposal company's roll cart. The lid clattered when it was shut. More barking would follow. I imagined that Dawn was having the last word on the trash matter. Moments later, I heard the drone of the garage door shutting. The door between the garage and the pantry would creak open and then shut with a clunk. The tapping of doggy toenails on the tile receded to the back of the house. The patio door opened, and the conquering hero's happy commotion was muted when the door slid shut. Blessed silence would follow. I'd snuggle into my soft down pillow and feel myself drifting to sleep. Brum, brr, 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 brr. Bark, 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 bark. The roaring of the lawnmower and Dawn's barking startled me awake. Backyard warriors had replaced Santa Claus and reindeer as they embarked on another quest in their not-so-medieval game of chores. I'd roll over, cover my head with a pillow. I was determined to go back to sleep because in my mind it was positively uncivilized to mow the lawn at 1/2 sunrise. Eventually, the growling drone of the lawnmower would lull me back to sleep. King Bill and Princess Dawn were inseparable and often patrolled the grounds, making sure that intruders from the local squirrel and bird populations and the neighbor's cat knew better than to breach the kingdom's boundaries. Dad taught Dawn the things that a young up-and-coming dog of good breeding would need as she stepped out into the world. Sit, stay, come, shake, down, fetch, twirl, point, and in return, she taught him the art of herding. Dawn's enthusiasm for taking part in household routines wasn't limited to trash collection alone. She had an almost uncanny ability to perceive what was needed next. Her stealthy instincts for herding extended well beyond sheep. Dawn applied her talents to her human family with equal vigor and determination. She was always there, wagging her tail and ready to help in her own unique way. Expertly, she demonstrated this skill by herding Dad and the rest of us wherever she felt we should be. She didn't like her herd of humans to separate themselves from each other. If we did, she would spend much of her time trotting from one room to the next to keep an eye on us. Dawn often employed the woof and follow maneuver. This is where she would let out a low, short woof and then run in the direction she wanted us to follow. If that didn't work, the bump and lean was also very popular with those of us who might try to outwit her. She delighted in gently bumping us with her nose and then leaning her body into our right leg or left legs, depending on which way she wanted us to go. Finally, there was the grasp and lead, which entailed gently grasping a hand, shirt, or pant leg in her mouth and pulling us in a predetermined direction. This was usually a last resort move and would only be used if our humans were being especially obstinate or it was an emergency. If it was an emergency involving her 6-year-old niece who was getting too close to the street, she would move her back or stop her baby nephew trying to climb up on the coffee table or out of his crib unsupervised. Dawn took her nanny position as seriously as she took her Princess of the Palace title. The children were watched and corralled as deftly as any wandering lambs might be. King Bill only had to utter the words, "Watch the babies," and super nanny mode was activated. She would lie down in the doorway, effectively blocking access to any room they were not to enter. No amount of pestering or pulling would sway her. If one of the kiddos became upset because they left their favorite stuffed animal somewhere in the palace, she'd find it and bring it back and drop it at their feet. Likewise, if one of them fell asleep on the floor, couch, or anywhere else that little ones land after exhaustive hours of play, she would drag their blankies over them to cover them up. My dad and Dawn spent many hours watching, playing, and entertaining the grandkids and each other, engaging in everything from story time, where everyone took turns reading to Dawn, to throwing elaborate tea parties that required wearing tiaras and the latest princess finery. Princess Dawn enjoyed eating homemade doggy biscuits and drinking her tea from a Beauty and the Beast plastic bowl. Entire snowy winter afternoons were spent pulling a sled with snow-clad munchkins aboard. After the snowball fight, snow dogs joined the snow people built in the front yard. In spring, we planted geraniums in the flower pots, and Dawn would bark at the squirrels in the huge pine tree next to the house. She would bark at the little furry trespassers, and the squirrels would chatter and scold us as they scrambled and hopped over the branches. Summer days saw picnics, blanket forts, tag, and fetch played in the backyard. Fall brought jack-o'-lantern carving, Halloween decorations, and Disney-themed costumes for all of us to wear, including Dawn. Those years were magical and happy in so many ways. Our memories were captured in the pages of my mother's scrapbooking albums, beautiful tributes of glossy photos, bright, colorful stickers, colored cloth, small mementos, and handwritten observations, all gathered and lovingly displayed to celebrate our family. That chapter of my life is closed now, but Dad and Don's light still shines from the pages. Even now, I can walk around my parents' home, seeing and hearing vignettes of love, laughter, and the fun we shared. I'm extraordinarily grateful, immensely honored, and highly privileged to have been aboard the Trash Bin Express.
Thank you, Minda. Well read. And excellent sound effects.
You gotta write them down, Yeah, there's certainly.
Yeah. Our dog has taught me the herding thing, but I haven't taught her any of those other tricks. Come, sit, stay, any of that stuff. Okay, we're gonna have Carrie Walker come tell us about modern love now. Carrie is a writer and teacher. She's taught writing and literature at colleges and universities across the country, including here at COCC. These days, she's exploring life beyond academia, working on her memoir while wrangling dogs, goats, and honeybees in Tumalo. And afterwards, if you want to hear something interesting, ask her about the cougar story.
Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Carrie Walker. Hi, Frank. All right, I'm assuming you know how to work all that stuff.
My best, I'll find out.
Carrie spends more time here at COCC than I do. So.
Hi, everyone. Nice to be here, and I'm really honored when I see the lineup of all the amazing people you have coming up and have had in the past. My tendency has been to watch the recordings online at home very late at night when most people are sleeping. So it's really nice to be here in person. How many of you are familiar with the Modern Love Personal Essay series? Okay, about half. All right, and so, well, I'm here to talk to you about it today. It's an essay that I've been actually started teaching. The idea came to me when I had my job interview here at COCC 7 years ago, maybe longer actually. And I think it's safe to say I'm mildly obsessed with it. I've learned a lot about writing from this column, it's a column in the New York Times. Every Sunday, there is a modern love essay in the style section. And I will tell you more about how it's kind of grown into a franchise.
Do a screen share.
Well, I think it is. Okay, then let me talk about just gonna pause. It's working.
About her notes.
Okay, so the Modern Love column is a weekly column, as I mentioned. There's also a book, there's also a podcast, and there's also a television series on Amazon. And the content is about relationships, feelings, betrayals, and revelations. And before we go any further, I will mention that people often think about platonic romance when they think about the theme of modern love. And it's really about so much more than that. There are all kinds of family relationships, friends, essays about pets, just kind of anything you can, even vehicles. And I guess it doesn't take a therapist to say often what we love is a reflection on ourselves. And so that's the content of many or of all of these essays.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to get it so it's not showing your notes. Anybody know how to do that?
I don't know.
Well, it's showing that,
It's like a presenter. Oh, it's down there.
I'm gonna stop the share and start over again. If I'm-
Yep. Yeah, really.
Nailed it, sorry, thanks.
All right, so I named this courting modern love. I thought about that verb a lot, as we do. And it really, as we know as writers, it's not just about what we want to say, but what the audience wants to hear. And so I think it's important to think of the question. No, I can't quite get my slides to go, but let's see, I think I'll try this way. There we go. I think it's important to ask, who are we courting? All right, and here they are. The person on the left, or on your left, is Daniel Jones. He's the longtime editor of the series. He's been doing this for 25 years. This is Mia Lee. He is his more recent, I don't know, co-editor. I'm not exactly sure what the relationship is between the two of them in terms of workload, but these are who you can imagine in some ways that you're writing to, but of course you're writing to readers of the New York Times. All right, and I want to say a few things about the way that they talk about modern love is if you start reading the column, which I'll pause and say, if you want to write something, I think the best, my bias is that you should read it and read it often and thoroughly. And so I'm forgetting my original point now. Yep, I lost my train of thought, but that is true. I think that if you want to decide you want to write a modern love essay, I would definitely start reading them. And whatever my other point is will come back to me. It was about the term modern. And so when you read through the essays, often like a lot of the columns include technology in the sense that it might be something about online dating. That is a regular theme, about, and that's where something kind of modern comes in rather than a more classic love story of some sort. Or just a modern predicament that people find themselves in. And I'll be sharing example essays that show this, including today a little bit, but more with the later workshop on the 21st. So I wouldn't get, if you're thinking, as you jump into this topic, I wouldn't get caught up on the word modern. If that gives you any anxiety, I would just say, let's worry about that later. So here is what I'm calling the seduction playbook. Today I wanted to just introduce you to the idea of the modern love essay. It is a personal essay form that has a lot to teach us as readers and writers in terms of it. The word limit is 1,600 words. So it really forces us to zone in on the stories that we want to tell. And what kind of arc that we want to take. All right, and I'm going to next I'll be sharing a sample essay. And cool. A sample essay so that we can kind of deconstruct, we can listen to one. I'll play the audio, you can read along, make notes, and then I'm going to introduce a structure noted by a writer. Her name's I'm forgetting it right now, and Nicole Whitaker, or J. Nicole Whitaker, Kate Nicole Whitaker, I forgot the first letter, sorry. And she read all of the modern love essays in 2015 and thought about what do they have in common. And so she offers up an outline that we're going to be talking about and thinking about as we jump into possibilities for our own work. All right, and then we will, I'm going to hope to inspire you to write your own modern love essay during a speed dating activity. So we'll see what we have time for. Right, and so the first example that we're going to look at together is a story that I chose for a lot of reasons. It's one of my favorite columns ever. It is also about love between a mother and a daughter, which helps us reframe maybe our initial assumptions. And I know Valentine's Day is coming up, and perhaps I should have picked something more romantic, but oh well. All right, this is a great example to think about, and it's an essay, as you know, stories do. This is one that has really stayed with me over the years, and I would even say that my relationship with this essay has evolved over the time that I have listened to it. And I'll say it stayed with me because it helped me understand my mom better, and that is part of what a powerful essay can do, right? Reading it, we learn something about ourselves. So I'm going to hope that this technology works out okay. And I think we have to pause the recording for this for copyright reasons. But I will say to the folks who are with us over Zoom, if you wanted to do a quick Google, you can see the title of the essay is Maternal Wisdom, 5 pounds worth. If you Google the title and modern love, you should be able to pull it up pretty quickly. It'll take us about 10 minutes to go through it. And Mike gratefully made copies for us. I'm going to take the one to him, and then thank you.
All right.
So we'll pass these out. And the Modern Love podcast has changed a little bit, but in the early years, what they did, how it was set up is that they would hire, I guess they probably paid somebody, but they would invite a well-known actor or actress, or I guess it's just actor now, isn't it? A well-known actor to choose a modern love essay to read. And so this particular episode was read by Gillian Anderson, who was in the X-Files. I think I know her most from the X-Files.
Those of you at home, if you go to the Central Oregon Writers Guild webpage and you go to the where Carrie's presentation is, at the bottom of that, you can download this file there too.
Okay, do I need to do anything with the Zoom? Are you?
No, I don't
Okay.
think so.
Battery 100%.
And I'm
Connected to
going to adjust a little bit here. And you can give me a thumbs up when I think I have the sound. Ooh, oops. I will give you a heads up. This is a little bit of a tearjerker for me. It's just a really beautiful story. And so I'm not into trigger warnings or anything like that, but this is just a very powerful story about a love between a daughter or a mother and her daughter. And really 3 generations. So I might also, for the sake of time, she reads it really slowly, so I may speed it up just a little bit. So we'll just get that started. I'm not gonna start right at the beginning, but I'll start because they chat a little bit first and then we'll jump in.
Hope Edelman, who's a little traumatized by her daughter's experience of sex, were to report to school. Okay, I'm back. Sorry, guys.
Did you like it?
We loved it.
Does anybody want to share a detail or a sentence or a writerly strategy that the author used to really reel you in this piece? I know I'm not teaching like a class wise, I can't not get in the back.
Yeah, I liked the pacing of it. There was sort of this toggle back and forth between the humor and sweetness that I thought created a nice pace, and then also toggling back and forth between it being about Victoria and it being about her own reflection.
Yeah, thank you. Linda, did you?
I was just gonna say it wasn't focused just on the team, which is what I first expected. Because I have to admit, I taught a class similar, a unit similar to that to high schoolers with boys as well. So it stopped me in my tracks when I started reading it. So it was nice to hear the parent side, because when I was doing it with high schoolers, I never got parental feedback. And that would have been so valuable.
Did any of you have this experience in high school of having an egg? Yeah. This is Fumiko, by the way.
Oh my.
And Fumiko does look I'm not really sure where the flour sack part of Fumiko goes, but Fumiko looks pretty real.
Yeah.
And what I only finally today or this week looked up this picture because I had heard that if you listen to the podcast, the host will interview the author and say more, and then she also interviews Gillian, is it Anderson? Is that what her name? Did I already forget her name? Yeah, and so you get to hear a little bit more, and I think that's where I learned that the picture of Fumiko was on the website. So you really understand how freaked out her mother must have been in that moment,
I
because
think that type of doll is soft in the middle, so she just cut the side of it and she pulled out the stuffing and put the sack inside and then stitched up the side. And its legs and everything, it's a baby doll you can buy like that. And you can pull out the stuffing part and put the bag in, and sew it back up.
yeah, thanks. Yeah, anybody else want to share something that they found powerful about this essay?
Well, what I found powerful was her envy and then her sadness that she couldn't help. I thought that was the twist where the daughter became independent and didn't need her
Because she did her job, right?
because she did her job. I thought that was to move from envy to then feeling somewhat rejected because of her daughter growing up and moving to the next level. So I thought that was a very subtle but moving thing with a depth to it, right? That's what I liked about it.
Yeah, this essay definitely takes us in a different direction than at least I expected starting off reading it.
I think it relates, I read this column a lot and, but I think so it touches me a lot as a mother of three and twins that I didn't get to give one back, but I can certainly let they got two. Are you sure? But as my daughters grow, they did this exercise, but they had I had a doll that looked like that was 6 months, basically wore 6 month baby doll clothes. I still have it. And one of my daughters wanted one, so eBay was new and I went and found one. And mine is Meg and hers is Megan. And so she dragged around this doll that was, half her size. So I always thought it was so strange, in particular for girls, because we were given so many dolls that all of a sudden in junior high, you're supposed to forget what it's like to have a doll. but I get the point that you have to drag this 5-pound thing around. But I did miss, this touched me because the exercises as a mom, what I can relate to is, but it doesn't have the same, it doesn't evoke the same love, which I think is good, because God help us, if the flower sack could evoke that connected, deep love that you, it's like this love affair you never knew was gonna happen. And I was grateful that that moment was in here. And then lastly, the envy thing, I too wrote down, because whether you have a present mother or not, I think I'm envious of my daughters having, someone who they think I'm going to fit their situations better than my own mom, who showed up, but still was very different kind of a person. And that's what I think these articles are always so interesting to read. I still get the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal, as I'm committed to understanding lots of perspectives. But all of the journal things, there's something so universal about each one. About love or envy of generations, and I did it well, therefore I'm not needed, or I wish I had what they have, but that was the whole point of becoming who you became, right? So, and that doesn't even have to do with motherhood, that has to do with professionals, right? So you want to be the teacher that you never had, or maybe you were lucky enough to have. And so that's the theme that I think is so universal about a lot of these things. Is I don't even, this one I may have read, but there's a lot of these love stories that I don't relate to the characters, but I always breeze through, because there's a thread of feeling that you could take the characters and not make it a mother and a daughter. It could be, you know, the person on the train and the employee, and I like that about these. So in the writing, there's a universal theme.
Thank you. Great, one more and then we'll move on.
I was just gonna say, I think this flour sack, to me, in my mind, would work way better than the egg. Cause egg, first of all, it's very easy to break. Number two, you know, it doesn't resemble shape, size, anything of a baby. It's just something you have to carry with you, and it's harder to, you know, easier maybe to tuck it into a backpack, but you gotta pat it and protect it. Whereas that thing is much more real, like a baby. So that made way more sense to me. I'm blown away that that's the doll. I
Yeah.
mean, that's incredible.
I believe I had an egg also, and they've definitely come a long way.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the 4-part structure that from the article that I mentioned by Kay Nicole Whitaker. And this was in, it appeared in Writer magazine, and I have a link to it for, and we'll probably share it with the workshop folks on the 21st. But this is the outline that she notices when she, or that she observed in reading all of the 2015 essays. So the first part is where I am, or where I was, or what I've observed at the start. And then how the author got there, or the narrator got there. Then what happens next. And finally, what I think or learned based on what happened. So I think it would be helpful to just take a few minutes, maybe with a partner, and go through the essay and think about whether this, if and how this essay follows that outline. So you can either do it by yourself or you turn to a neighbor or a friend.
Are we able to keep these so we can write on them?
Oh, yeah, right on them. Yep, they're all yours.
And exactly what are we supposed to do?
So if you look at the sample essay that we just read, so the question is, does this essay follow that outline? of where I am at the start, how the author gets to that part. So basically the structure.
I would say that's a good.
It's just kind of like, this is much more. This was diving in.
Dinner's ready, bud.
But I don't know, that would be more like. He's kind of there.
Yeah.
So more or less, I mean, she started out. I think it's what happened to the next daughter. So that's that. How I got it here. Well, I think you're part of that. That's kind of what happens next. Because that's
That's what I did, yeah. It's a reaction to the, you know, it's not higher. Part three, but I went out and there and tried to. Last year. So make it.
This was last year, so I started
No. I am very strong. Oh, like, so, the memo arrives, but I like saw her experience. All right, memo, I already have the memo, already have that. I got so much, I must do there.
So.
Yeah, I'm going to the daughter.
Yeah, so, I'm sorry, I don't know. I think that last question. Because I think that's really something.
She's already in it. React. Then you have to store them for 5 and that is where I thought. Yeah. Yeah. And then it was the memo, what he needs to do, so let's remember, yeah. Yeah, super, it's almost everything. What happens next, the actual debate, right? The little girl like swing out.
And that wasn't.
Yeah, yeah. It's never it. Right. Yeah, so we can start with number 9.
And so I went down and I did accessory building.
You know, like. So the president leaders do the demo. Is where she's like, I get these, like, entry, the mother, or the actor's point is some people, it's a little girl already.
Yeah, she's in it. It's not like setting us all up on this, I feel so sad. She didn't realize what she was doing. How it was to be.
Then this is all.
Right.
So does something like that, right? And I'm like, I'm gonna do this thing. And so that's all the part. And then that's just how they get through that. And how they see something another. She talked about her alarming rationality. And she's like,
Where I am.
she was thinking.
Great, give those science fiction.
Exactly. She didn't even see. So I. You know, sorry about your. That's what I got. What that is. You're right, you're right, because by the end of it, that was just, oh, you know, I just wanted to stop, I just wanted to stop.
And nothing emotional about it.
It's okay. And like, right? All right. Like this has to make sense.
So. Look at the.
It's a mode, that's another. It's like. Not
No, I had. Oh, I do. I'm one of those.
No, everybody just like.
Yeah, my dad and my mom and my brother and I.
Yes,
Yes. I'm the second oldest. My brother's the oldest. I'm the next one down. I was the oldest in psychology. More this is further than I ever. Feedback is practically my period. And then they had some just and so for them, my stepmom had a stroke. Early on.
Another minute to finish up the conversation, and then we'll bring it back.
Oh, I understand. It's actually kind of what I think about it is.
And again.
Just moved, my brother has a stroke. Yeah, so she's a bit handy.
So I shot her. Surprise, I was, so I was coming, right, so then I went to the, thinking about. Well, I should have. That's fair. Take care of this. Right, so we had this discussion. Yes, you Whereas my sister was like, yeah, well, we're new, I never knew she had it before, you know? She was like, right?
Oh, right, everybody.
Yeah.
How did it go?
Yeah, great job.
Okay, good. Yeah, that's the whole-
I don't
Learning and.
Oh, yeah.
This is why it's the best. Yeah. You know that.
All right, who'd like to share where they saw this? Who'd like to share what they determined for the first part? Okay, so according to Whitaker, the first part of many modern love essays is in the present. Okay, we start often in media res, in the middle of things. All right, so how do you see that happening in this essay? Does anybody want to share what you came up with?
Sure, the first, most of the page is present. Mom, it's a game kind of ends it, and then, but was it 20 years ago? Begins how I got here. It's a clear shift from the present to, telling the story of the past.
Great, thank you. Anybody, did everybody end up with that, or do we have some other interpretations, which are all welcome? Yeah,
We started with the present, she's at home.
right.
And that it was, parental confusion. And then we looped back, how she got there was the memo,
Okay,
and took it from that. So that's
Okay.
where we were at.
all right. Anyone else? All right. Mike, where do you think that the shift happens for you?
The shift from where to where, from,
From 1 to 2?
I think that, we were talking about the sort of the mother's origin story, right? The Batman's parents getting killed in the alley sort of thing. And the origin story to me would be the loss of her mother. Yeah, so that's the sort of how you got here. Who she is when the kid comes home with the memo from school that we're gonna do this. And
Yeah, thank you. Anybody else think that or find that on page 2, if you look at page 2 for my own fractured adolescence, I know my mother's patience and fortitude are what a daughter remembers most. All right, so, and this is all arguable. There's no right answer, but I actually was on the same page with what Mike said, because we go into the backstory. So we get the whole scene. Okay, the problem is that this daughter is 11 and she has a flour sack baby, and the mother's very upset about that. So the turn is, and she makes some generalizations that all mothers would, or, that everybody would be upset about this. But then we get a deeper level when we find out that her own mother died of breast cancer. So I'll suggest that maybe the turn happens there, but again, this is all open to our interpretation. Right, and so if how I got there is the moment of, the mother's backstory. She was a mother. As a mother, she didn't have her mother to help her, right? Which is important at the end. Okay, and that she didn't know what she was doing. She didn't have her mother to help her, teach her how to become a mother herself. And she was exhausted, and it sounds pretty, I think she finds a nice balance of saying it was horrible, but then she adds in some positive too, because it just sounds exhausting. Yeah, I think she did a nice job of communicating that. Not that she had to say anything nice about it, but she also found a way to do that. I'll also suggest, so then there's the what happens next. And I'll just say, I think that happens quickly in this essay. I think it happens on page 2 also. And that it happens with this section. That's how I found myself 11 years later, stitching plastic bags filled with flour into the torso of a life-size infant. All right, and this is where she's back in the present and has this fake baby that is that is alarmingly lifelike. And so then we hear about what life is like with Famiko. All right, did anybody have an alternative that they wanted to share?
mine, what happens next is the top of page 3, the side of one's 11-year-old daughter with her own baby is a freak out, no matter what.
Yeah,
Because she didn't, what happens next? So this flower sack thing was gonna happen since the beginning. The first paragraph was we're gonna dress up this flower sack. So for me now.
okay, Yep.
We were discussing that the 3 was, she says, in my absence, she figured out a plan, the daughter, on the last page, and she says, "Oh, wasn't that what I wanted? Then why did I suddenly feel so sad?" I don't think the mom expected to have the emotions that she was so more affected by this whole exercise than the daughter.
very
That's
true.
what happened next.
Yeah.
She learned.
Anybody else? See, we can all, I mean, and these essays all hit differently for us, right? Different parts make a different impact. Right, so I'll just share the where I think the next shift happens, and then you can just take it for what it's worth, and then I'll talk more about the structure in general. I think that for me, the part 4 happens on the last page at the top where it says, like every motherless mother, I live with an acute awareness that I can be taken from my children at any time. And I think this is really this is her reflecting on the whole situation. Okay, so for me, the structure of this essay is that, this daughter is getting a fake baby. Okay, then, the fact that she doesn't have a mother, then going back into the present, and saying, this is how I go, this is how she goes through caring for her daughter and her flower sack granddaughter. Okay. And that the reflection or her reflection of what she learned based on what happens for the rest of the essay. All right. And this is a complicated essay. I would say it's a little more complicated than a lot of the other, like I listened to this week's Modern Love essay on the way here, and it was not it wasn't as it didn't have as much depth as this one for me. Some of them, and Gils, if you come to the workshop, I have a bunch of sample essays, and I just gravitate towards the more complicated ones structurally because I read as a writer. And I'm trying to figure out my own my own workout, but this is an example of how you can go through it, and we're having different interpretations. But I think for our purposes, okay, and I'm going to invite you to try writing a modern love essay, both now and in the workshop, moving forward with the workshop, and you have a couple of weeks to actually reflect and do some other reading of modern love essays if you want some homework. But for me, I find there are some that will follow this even more explicitly. This one's a little bit more complicated just because it helps us really think about the structure. And again, it's open to our interpretation. And what I think the beauty of going through this is what, so I have submitted one essay to Modern Love. I knew the topic might not work. I was like, either it's gonna work or it's not. And I got rejected, and it felt great because I now have officially been rejected. I did it. I tried because I taught this for years, and I always thought, well, what is my story that I can tell? I can tell you a lot of stories. I can't tell you a lot of stories in 1,600 words because it's just not my gift. And so I thought for a really long time about what I wanted to submit. And actually, you've read part of it. You wouldn't remember this, but that story that you read of mine about my mother's aunt, Jean. Yeah, that's what I submitted, and I had to figure out a way to do it, and I did it, and now I've been sitting on it for a good year, and it's time to send out. And I'll talk about other places that you can send out personal essays of this style, should you want to submit it to the New York Times and other places. But I found when I wrote my essay, I found this really helpful as a revision strategy because I wrote my essay and then going through, I wrote through my essay, then I discovered, then I took a class actually where I learned about this essay. And then I used this structure to go back and revise. I used it as a guiding principle. And so we'll talk about that again in the longer workshop, but I give this to you as a tool. So if you want to write a modern love essay, this is I would suggest just getting it down and then potentially using the structure as a way to whip it into shape for your reader.
Well, I want to object to number 4. Because to me, just what did you think or learn? It's like a pedantic question, like what was the moral of the story or something shallow. And the way I look at this particular story, it's 2 female people, a young girl and a mother, looking into the future, into a transition. The young girl has this baby and she's dealing with the transition into motherhood. And the mother is dealing with the transition into being an empty nester and not having a child. And so as they go through this story, they aren't even close to that point in their life, but that's what they're confronted with. It's, oh, what happens when my daughter doesn't need me? And oh, what happens when I have a child? And it's that relationship. And so it's more an experience as opposed to a lesson. It's an experience that deepens the characters and gives them a complexity that is new in terms of the structure of the story. As opposed to, oh, this is the lesson I learned that having a little kid is a heck of a lot of work, and maybe I want to think about it twice before I have one. Whereas in fact, the little girl is sinking in with it and is adapting to it, and the mother feels rejected by it. So it's that kind of transitional experience. And I think that focusing on a lesson or something symptomatic like that is not as good as what this author does in that presentation.
And I'll just remind you that the outline that comes from this article is the author, Whitaker. She read through all the modern love essays of 1 year, and she says, this is the pattern that I notice. So I'm not saying you need to do this or not do this, but I'm
just wondering if this is maybe the wrong choice of words, because I think it does come across kind of shallow. And something else you might say is either how I grew or what was the transformation that I went through.
Yeah.
Right, it kind of undersells what she did,
How I grew.
but she did more than that.
Yeah.
And so at 4 is like, how did I change? Right, how did I grow? That might resonate more than what did I learn, which is sort of an Aesop fable, maybe.
Yeah, and when we have personal essay, that's kind of a key feature of a personal essay is this understanding that the narrator changes from the beginning to the end of the experience that they're writing about. It's really at the heart of personal essay. So absolutely. All right, and you'll have the opportunity to read Whitaker's article in the next workshop. But I don't, how much time do we have? We don't have a lot of time to do our speed dating. I was worried about running out of time, but we can at least do 1 or 2 rounds. If your hands are itchy, do you want to do a little writing? Okay, so I've taught this essay, to freshman students at COCC. I've taught it at the prison up at Deer Ridge, and to get such a wide array of amazing stories, but so many students don't know where to start. Okay, and there's always a few students, and talk about envy, I'm envious of them, that are like, I know exactly what I'm writing about. But I don't have that, or I've never had I mean, I do in other circumstances, but with this, I'm like, I don't know where to start either. So I have a list of prompts that I'll share with you. But typically what I do when I have more time is do this round of speed dating. And so I'll give you a topic and then I start my timer and I just ask you to write without like, just let it rip and just write whatever comes to mind. And I'll give you, we have time for like 1 or 2, I think. And then I'll give you all the prompts so that if you want to kind of run with the ideas when you go home and take yourself through this round of speed dating. We are just speed dating ideas and not each other. I think you've picked up on that by now. Okay, I don't think you're nervous. So we've done that. So this is our little speed dating segment. And again, I'm going to give you a prompt. You write freely in response to it, whatever comes to mind, because we know from free writing that we never know what's going to come up for us. And would you rather do 2 longer ones or 3 shorter ones?
Let's do 3.
Okay.
3 short.
3 short. Okay, so I will do 2 minutes. Do we have time for that?
Yeah.
We can go 5 minutes over.
Everybody okay with that?
And if you don't want to, then it's fine. It's been nice meeting you. Okay. Okay, and I'll give you 2 at once so you can pick one. And then at the end, they'll all be up here if you want to just do a screenshot or if you want to write them down. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes, choose one topic, a gift someone gave to you or that you gave to someone else, or you could write about a teacher, a role model, or somebody who taught you a lesson. Okay. So just whatever comes to mind, I'm going to set my timer for 2 minutes and then we'll move on to the next topic. And market set go. About 10 seconds. All right, just finish up your thought. I'm gonna share the next prompts. I'm sorry that it goes so fast. Okay, actually, I'll give you 3 because the first 2 are kind of the same. Or I'll give you 4. How about that? A memorable meal or dessert. Maybe somebody cooked it for you, maybe you cooked it for somebody else. Okay, or the best holiday ever. Or a trip to the blank. Or bunks, bruises or breaks? Keep writing for your first one if you're into it. Wasn't paying attention, you have 3 more seconds. Share your thoughts and I'll just share the rest of them that are up here. Whoops. A favorite piece of clothing or a stuffed animal that comes to mind, some kind of soft object. Or I'm just really running the gamut with this one, a concert, a song, a movie, or a book you once shared with someone. Or someone leaving or arriving, someone coming or going. Or a time you made a sacrifice, or something someone else sacrificed for you. All right, for 2 more minutes. A fresh topic. Got about 10 seconds left to wrap up your thoughts. Okay, I know that wasn't very much time, but perhaps you can revisit these topics or think of some on your way home and revisit just even the idea of speed dating, some ideas. And just going kind of rapid fire through different topics to trigger memories. I find that really, it's always more helpful, and I have found with my students that after they do this, no one ever has the question of what to write about. Everybody figures out something. And so if you come to the workshop on the 21st, we'll kind of go through the drafting process and talk about some revision techniques. And if you go through with it and work on an essay, submission tips, and 3 hours is a lot better to try to go over this in just such a short period of time. But if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Yeah, so where is the workshop? What time?
It is on the 21st.
21st, 1 to 4 p.m. downstairs here, saying that there's a similar setup of rooms on the first floor, 117 and 118 that we'll be in.
And we sign up online as usual?
Yeah, so on the website, there's a RSVP button to click on. Yeah.
And what's gonna happen in the workshop?
I'll go back to this. Well, we're gonna do some drafting and revision exercises. I'll go back to.
I'll get these slides from Carrie and I'll post them on the website.
So I did something.
You
Not
stop
me to
share.
do whatever I did. But I will go back to slide. Is anything up on the screen? Oh.
Yep.
I'll go back to the schedule here. Mike, what is that magic button? Oh, I got it. There we go. I always have so much trouble with the optical view books too far.
Oh, there you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can be thinking about possible topics between now and then. And then there's also, if you just go to Modern Love, you just Google New York Times Modern Love. It's really easy to access. I will have some gift articles, sample essays that I really love in the Google folder for the next workshop. I already have a bunch in there. And I'll share my directions that I use with my students. And there's a bunch of resources. There's also somebody named Ben Kioski. I don't know who he is, but he loves the Modern Love column because he has an essay. It's actually my last slide. So if anybody wants to take a picture of this, now's the moment. Okay. He has all the Modern Love essays in one website. His name is right here. It's the unofficial list, but every Modern Love essay is there. There's an interview with Daniel Jones, who you see there with Google, and it's an hour long where he talks about the Modern Love. There's also a podcast episode that is in the Google files. The link is in the Google files, where he talks about over 20 years, what his 3 favorite essays were and why. And then there is a website out there, again, I have it in the Google Docs, where they offer basically submission tips, and it's like a list of like 40 things. It's very overwhelming, and I don't actually just looking about it, because they're like, well, don't write about cancer. Everybody writes about cancer, but then some of the best essays on our love column are about cancer. So there's that. And so these are all guidelines. We all have to follow our own hearts and our own topics. And I think the key really is figuring out not just the topic that you want to write about, but really what's at the heart of it. And that's something that we'll talk about next.
Now, can we
Next session.
bring manuscripts with us?
Sure.
And would that be out of place?
I'm not sure what we'll have time for in terms of what you might do with them. My, I mean, this is your experience and it's your time. So I want you to use it however you want to use it, but my suggestion is you try something fresh just to see what happens.
Well, putting together a manuscript would be fresh.
Well, what I'm hoping is that you try writing a modern love column or a submission.
Yeah, I can do.
So I don't know if you're conflating the thing that we're gonna be doing on the 24th and the thing that she's doing, but we're gonna be doing kind of creating critique groups on the 24th. Once you find yourself in a critique group, that's a great place to share a manuscript.
Uh-huh.
I think what Carrie's gonna be doing is more generative writing, so we're gonna be working from scratch. And trying to develop new work.
I have
Does that make
found,
sense?
and if, in case this is helpful, I have found, when I wrote my modern love essay, I pulled something from my memoir project. I pulled like something from chapter 10. And then and decided, okay, I need to fit this into I had like 40 pages. And I was like, how am I gonna fit this into 1,600 words? And I found it was so beneficial to me to really get to the heart of what I was trying to say. So it really, even if you have a manuscript project, taking a piece of it and trying to put it into 1,600 words, based on my experience, I learned so much about that part of my story that when I go back to figure it out in my memoir where I have more space, it's going to be so much stronger. So you might approach it like that if you have a manuscript you're focused on.
To come to class with or as part of that?
No, we'll generate new, I mean, you can bring whatever you want, but, and maybe it'll be handy to have it.
No, okay, I got it.
But yeah, I think I did cut and paste notes from my manuscript when I started writing my essay. And I'm happy to share my rejected essay if that's helpful for anyone to see. No shame.
Not to do.
I just, it's what not to do. But it will raise some questions about what topics they like.
Did they give you a reason why? it
They
was
do give you
rejected?
no feedback.
See,
but they-
that I disagree.
Well,
I
they
think they
get-
should
they
say
get-
something. A
they
sentence
get-
or two.
I forget how many, I think they get 10,000 submissions a year.
Okay.
They don't have time to give me feedback. I understand that.
Well, and they publish their friends too.
I'm not sure. I'm not worried about that. I do know I read it a lot. And I'm from New York. They do publish a lot of very New York stories, but they also publish stories that are not. And also there's a series called Modern Love on Amazon. So if you wanted to listen to podcasts, you can listen to podcasts, you can read the articles, or you can even, they're beautiful. I actually mostly watched the first series. I wasn't as into the second one for no reason but myself. I'm not a big TV watcher, but it was really fun to watch the first season. And I would also, if you wanted more homework, read the essay and then watch the, I think they're like a half hour. I think the episodes are a half hour. And there's maybe 8 of them per season or something like that. It's not very long.
That's directly related.
Oh, they make essays into episodes. Yeah. Yeah.
And what are they called again?
It's just called Modern Love.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
If I heard you correctly, Carrie, for the 21st, did you say we had homework? Or you suggested homework?
My suggested homework would be as much as you want to do. Go through the speed dating exercise and read some modern love columns.
Okay,
Yeah.
but nothing written that we should be bringing.
I will be bringing my red pen. I don't even have one.
So we don't have to bring one for ourselves.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Just, if you're interested in the topic, I think not only is it a specific column, but through this, I've learned so much about writing a personal essay. And so if that interests you, and as we know, we learn whether we're fiction writers or poets, we learn in by writing in other genres.
Yes.
And so I'd like to think that the personal essay has something to teach everybody.
And what did you write about?
I wrote my essay about taking care of my mother's aunt after my mother passed away.
I'm gonna shut this down, but we can
Yeah.
keep talking. But thank you all at home for coming. I'm sharing this for the folks at home right now. This is where you RSVP if you want to come to the one at the 21st. All right, so I am stopping the Zoom. But keep talking, Carrie.
Anybody has questions, I'm happy to answer them also.